Hi.
Hello.
Hello. You sound like you're an echo chamber.
Hello. Thank you all for coming. I see mostly familiar faces, but in case you don't know, I'm the director of the Lunenburg Public Library near Hammond, and I've been working on this program here just about since I started at the library in another job. So it's been almost a year that I've been working on this, and I've been looking forward to it for a very long time. Before we kick it over to Andrew, who is incredibly inspiring, but I'd like to thank just a couple people. In particular, the Friends of the Lunenburg Public Library who made this possible today. They've been very generous with their gift to make this happen. I'd also like to thank the schools for giving us opportunity to use this beautiful facility. And of course, the community of Lunenburg in particular. You guys are home, both for me and for you guys. So thinking about community is part of what led me to try to make this happen, and I'm glad that you guys have come out. Without taking up more of your time, kick it over to the main event. Please help me in welcoming Andrew Forshoffel.
Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for coming. I feel my heart racing at the gift of having people show up to listen to me as if I have something to say. You know what I mean? Which is kind of what I'm here to talk about. Here to tell you some stories about this walk across America that I took a few years ago. And to tell those stories and to share some of those reflections in service to what I learned, or maybe more specifically, how I learned what I learned on that walk, which was by listening. And so I get to share some of these things and be listened to, presumably. Though I might fall asleep. And it's just a gift. So I feel, the beautiful obligation to thank you. Thank you for being here and choosing to give. I would say the most sacred offering you have to give, which is your attention and your willingness to be with me here and now, to be with. So before I dive any further in, I want to give you the chance to come a little closer. If you want. We're not going to force anything here. But now's the time. If you're like, this is kind of a big room, and there's kind of a lot of space here. Maybe it would be fun to be a little... Yes. Thank you, Anne. Anne's got my back. I met her before I started this. Thank you. It makes me feel good. It's supportive to me to feel that closeness. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Nice. So I guess I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't felt the call after graduating from college to take some concentrated, intentional time to listen deeply to all that I didn't know. I graduated from college, and there's kind of this expectation that you know what you're supposed to know now, and you're going to make a lot of money knowing what you know now, and you have your career and you do this. When I graduated, I was just kind of like, whoa, like the brink, the precipice, and I'm about to jump, and I'm like, I can't see anything down there, I don't know, and that actually felt important. That felt, something felt right about that. And instead of pretending that that wasn't the case, I actually wanted to honor the fact that I wasn't sure what it meant to be a man, or to be an adult, or to be some fully realized version of myself. I didn't know. And instead of pretending I did, I wanted to take some time to ask those questions of myself, and then of everyone I might meet. So, I applied for a fellowship to explore how young people come of age in indigenous communities. There was a community in West Africa I wanted to learn from, figuring I had come of age in America, in my culture, and was left with so many questions about what it actually meant, so many ambiguities about becoming an adult, so many mixed messages from our adult leadership in this country, in our communities, our parents. So maybe if I go halfway around the world, a totally different scene, I'll learn something new. Applied for this fellowship, didn't get the fellowship, but still had these questions, And so I thought, at some point, what if I just walked out my mom's back door? What if I packed a backpack full of just basics, and walked out her door, and began listening to the people I encountered as if they were my teachers. What if I began trying to see people as if each and every one of them was carrying some important reservoir of wisdom that no one else was? What if I saw you that way, as carrying something totally unique that no one else in the world is carrying? And if I attend to you as if that's true, if I listen to you and try to see you in that way, maybe, just maybe, you will deem me sincere enough and trustworthy enough to offer me what you have come to embody, what you have learned over the course of your life. Maybe we'll be able to get to that place together of deep, I would call it intimate connection. Maybe. If only I could see you this way. So this is my hope. Maybe it'll happen if I can learn how to listen. And I speak about, I have language for this now that I can share with you. And I have more of an intellectual understanding of it at this point. But at the time, I didn't really know what it meant to listen. I knew I wanted to hear people's stories, and that's about as far as my understanding went. I had no idea that what I was about to begin practicing with people would open up a world of connection that I never knew was possible, even with the most improbable character. What I mean? Maybe some of you read the book. So maybe some of those stories will come out in our time together here. So that's why I'm here. Yeah, I'm here because of that world that becomes possible with this ability to listen in the way that I'm going to describe, and the willingness to do so. And it's a world I got to live in on the road for 4,000 miles for a year. And I'll also invite you as we go here. If anything I'm saying stirs a question in you, if the story I'm telling or whatever it might be stirs a question or a comment or an observation, I welcome that real time. So raise your hand or shout it out or whatever it is. I'd love for this to be a conversation, as much as possible. Are there any questions right now? Yes. Where am I from? I live in Western Massachusetts now. Yes. Well, I started. So yeah, maybe I'll give you some of the nitty-gritty of the walk. When I began this walk, I was living in Pennsylvania, outside Philadelphia. And I decided I was going to walk on the highways because I figured if I walked on some of the long-distance trails, I would only meet people who liked hiking on long-distance trails, you know? And I wanted to meet as many different kinds of people as possible, figuring that a greater diversity of opinions and experiences would school me in a deeper way. So I figured I'd walk on the roads, which freaked me out. Have you ever walked on a highway? You some have, some, yes. What's it like to walk on a highway? Scary. Yeah, we can just leave it at that, I suppose. I remember feeling like a turtle without the shell on the highway. You know, because like your car is your shell. But when you're just a human being, like a body walking on this hostile road, cars zooming by at 80 miles an hour, exposed to the elements, rain, sun, whatever it's going to be, wind. I remember in New Mexico, the headwinds didn't stop. You know what I mean? Vulnerable out there, exposed out there. And I actually think that was an important part of sort of priming me to listen in the way that I ended up being able to out there on the road. The sort of the vulnerability I found myself in, I think inclined me toward I guess there's a way in which like vulnerability, if you're really feeling your vulnerability, can shut you down. You know? If I'm feeling vulnerable, it's like, well. But for whatever reason on the road, vulnerable, so far away from home and from anyone I knew, that exposure and that vulnerability, it sort of pushed me a little bit closer toward the truth of my need for people. You know, I was in sort of a constant state of need, which, as I even say that now, might bring up. It's like, as Americans, that you're not supposed to be needy. You're not supposed to need things. You're supposed to be independent and pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, that kind of thing. When in fact, all of us, each and every one of us, constantly relying on a vast, invisible network of interconnections that, of course, includes humans, but also the natural world. We're in that right now. And on the road, I was in that no more than I am now, but just a little more aware of it, you know. And so an example of this that I can give you is, you know, I would feel lonely after walking for 8 hours on the highway, you know, and kind of just want to have a chat with somebody, you know what I mean? Vulnerable is what I mean to say. Like I realized, like, oh, I need somebody right now, you know, but I'm alone, and like, where's that going to come from? And so when I found myself, so I would walk all day, and then I would get to wherever I happened to get by the time the sun went down. Maybe it was a little town somewhere, maybe it was just somewhere on the highway in between towns. And I would sort of make do with wherever I happened to be, and make home wherever I found myself. And I always kind of hoped for some kind of human connection at the end of the day, because of that sort of fundamental, beautiful need, you know, to both see somebody in a deep way and be seen, you know. I mean, I did sleep under a bridge or two, you know, and those nights were fun. But I would get to a town and then look for a place to camp out. Where are you going to sleep? You know what I mean? And often I would find a church or a bar or a general store or a gas station, you know, or an alligator ranch here in Mississippi, or a mariachi radio station in Texas. You know, wherever I happened to be. And the way I saw those moments, and the way I tried to see every moment and every footstep was, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. And there's actually nowhere else I can be. And that was quite literally true. You know, I didn't have a car. There was nowhere else I could be. I was footbound, you know. And so it was kind of the beginning of a practice of presence, of trusting that this moment is asking me to show up to it. And if I happened to be in that moment with somebody else, that meant I was being asked to show up to that person. And so I was getting schooled and trained in how to respect, how to really see somebody. That's what respect means. I discovered recently the etymology of the word. I think it's from the Latin "respice" or something like that, and it means to look back at. You know, to see somebody is what I was learning to do.
Were you at all surprised by the number of people, whether it was the good old boys in Georgia, African Americans, people on the reservation, by the willingness of people to take a look at you in your backpack and say, "Come on in, stay the night, have a meal. Let me tell you about what was going on." As I read the book, I think by the time I get to the end of the book, that was my overwhelming sort of feeling was that there are a lot of people out there that are willing to do that, and that sort of surprised me.
Yes, I was shocked. And after, I mean, when I first began the walk, before I left, to give you a little sense about where my mind was at. Okay, I'm about to be walking the highways of America into the unknown, and we all have ideas about who we are, what we're capable of, what we do to each other, you know. And so I remember role playing with my mom. What it would be like to meet someone on the road, you know. And I would be Andrew, you know. So I'd come up to this person who was my mom, you know. She's like pretending to be somebody, and I go, "Hi, I'm Andrew, you know. I'm walking across America. I'm walking to listening to people's stories, and just wondering if you want to be listened to." You know, I never quite said it that direct, but just practicing approaching people. And she, the role she always played in these little exercises was the role of the suspicious stranger. You know, I would go, "Hey, I'm Andrew. I'm walking across America." "What do you mean you're walking across America? You're not. No, you're not. What do you really do? Yeah, what do you nuts? What do you really do?" You know. So that's what I assumed would happen, and that's what I was preparing myself for. And what I began to be surprised by from the very first day was the sort of calming and transforming power of my own sincerity. You know? So me getting in tune and in touch with this truthful intention to listen. Beyond that, I had no agenda other than needing a place to sleep that night. You know what I mean? I wasn't trying to get anything other than a connection. And if that's not something they wanted, that's fine. I'm not trying to force that. You know, I'm not trying to sell you something. I'm just trying to know you. You know. So I was surprised from the beginning at how I think when people felt that sincerity, that earnestness, how often they were ready to join me there. And at, 4 months in, 5 months in, 6 months in, it's not that I was any less surprised by people's willingness to connect, but there was still the wondrous experience of, oh my God, here it is again, it's happening again. But I guess what I learned as time went by is that who isn't hungry for this kind of deep connection? Who isn't longing to abide with another human being in the truth of their heart's experience? Because that's what I was walking with myself. I was open and honest about my own uncertainties and insecurities and unknowns, and I was leading with that. I was telling people, this is where I'm at. I don't know where I'm going in my life. Sometimes that freaks me out. Have you ever felt something like that? You know, so I was sort of setting the tone by sharing myself, you know. And yeah, I think I'm not convinced that there's a single human being out there who really truly doesn't want to connect with other human beings in that kind of vulnerable, truthful way. And there's a lot in the way. There's a lot in between, you know, where we're at and that truthful connection. And what's in between that is the discomfort, fear, and for each of us it's going to be a little bit different, you know, whatever it is that keeps us from being vulnerable, you know. But getting through, but I think of that as kind of, I think of it as this like, and I experienced it on the walk. You know, I would say it was you know, I'm walking toward you, and I'm like, oh, I think I want to try it, you know, I want to see if we can get there together, you know. And then inevitably, and it still happens, inevitably, I come up against everything that is trying to convince me not to. So, I've got something else to do, or there's something more important to do, or someone else, not him, you know, or he is XYZ kind of a person. He looks like this, and so he's probably like this. And so, you know what? I'm not even going to bother because I can't trust him. You know, all kinds of gooey, thorny fear, right? That oftentimes is coming from experience. You know, many of us have tried to reach out in these ways, and we've been wounded, we've been betrayed, we've been hurt, and so
we do that in our regular lives, though. We can retreat into our homes,
yes,
into our schools,
yes,
into our workplaces.
Yes.
If you have nowhere to retreat, you have to connect.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And I think what you just said kind of perfectly captures where we're at as a culture and as a society. We're not just that. But it's so easy to isolate ourselves and deprive ourselves of the connection that I think is our birthright, our inheritance. We get to connect with each other at this vulnerable, truthful level. But I think basically been conditioned not to. We've been told that vulnerability is a dangerous thing to be, and it has now become dangerous to be. So I think there's this stuff in between me and you, and this work of just feeling through the discomfort and taking that step, and it is uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable just about every time. And I call this trustworthy listening, you know, and the intention to connect. It's something I try to practice every day, and I'm still uncomfortable, you know what I mean? And I think that's just the price of admission, as my friend Ben might say. It's the price of admission. And to just remember that there is a beautiful world on the other side of that fear and discomfort. And then for me, it's just about learning how to navigate through the darkness and the wilderness, you know? Because, sometimes there will be people who aren't ready to receive my vulnerability. You understand?
I have
yes.
a question kind of in there. So, was it mostly one-sided? I mean, were you doing all of the listening and all of the taking in, or did you feel seen and listened to as well? Because that sounds like a recipe for burnout. Like, I will do all of the listening for everybody everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
No.
No way.
No. It's got to be reciprocal.
Yeah.
I love that question. Thank you. A few things I found was the better I got at listening in the way that I'm describing, the more I realized how few people are able to show up in that way. And so, in an exchange, the presence of my listening, it was almost like it was like a space that people were ready to pour their wisdom and pain and their songs into. And if the other person hadn't become that space for themselves, I wasn't able to pour mine into them, you understand? So I would say I think there was a lot of one-sidedness to it, actually, and it continues to be, which is part of why I'm here, to just call attention to this sort of invisible pandemic that we are in the midst of, which is the absence of listening, and you can't really see it because listening is invisible. But that's where we find ourselves. And so that would be the first part of it, is what I would say. The second part of it I would say is every day after that kind of service that I was performing, I would have a long day's walk alone, in the body, in the elements, moving, sweating, like just reconnecting to myself, filling up my own reservoirs again, emptying out again, however you want to picture it. So there was built into the experience a kind of sustainability to it. And then the last thing I'll say to that is, I think, like for me, at the heart of this listening work, of this listening practice, is knowing your own, knowing one's own, knowing my own unconditional beauty and worthiness. When I'm showing up to listen to somebody, I'm saying to them, you are worthy of being listened to. I give a shit. As I should. I care about what you have to say. And I'm going to honor this sacred offering that you are living and bringing into the world. My ability to do that for another, I think, is correlated to my ability to do that with myself. So to know myself as worthy, to know myself as beautiful in the way that I'm wanting to reflect that to you who it is I'm listening to. And that was hard for me. I didn't want to be seen or listened to. I think the deeper truth underneath that is I was desperate to be seen and listened to. I was a young man who was unsure of himself, unsure of where I belonged and if I belonged. And I created a very interesting set of circumstances for myself where I was seen again and again and again by hundreds of people every day on the highway. You know what I mean? And I think that's a natural thing, for a young person. It's like, do I belong? Do I belong here? And looking for external validation of that. And I think unless and until that need is met and satisfied in a young person, they'll spend the rest of their lives looking for it outside. And I think a coming of age ritual worth its just, how does the phrase go? Worth its salt? Is that it's like pulling this out of my head? I think a part of a worthy coming of age ritual is one in which the young person is encircled by their community and seen, seen, and in all of their beauty, in all of their shakiness and jitteriness, just seen, and accepted and welcomed and loved. And this is sort of what ended up happening to me on the road. People welcoming me into their homes, some of them listening to me. But just even if they were listening to me in that way, just the simple fact that they were welcoming me into their homes and sharing with me their heart's truths was a way of saying to me, I see you as trustworthy. I want to pick that. There's more there, but I want to see what you have to say. Yes, sir.
Did you always stay in private homes or other places like youth hostels? And if you had a choice, how would you make that decision? And did you always stay just one night in each place?
I stayed one night in most places. But I would stay a few nights here and there, to rest. Or if I was feeling a particularly strong connection with someone, maybe I'd stay. One of the consequences of walking was I wasn't able to get to a hostel at the end of most days, or a hotel or a motel or anything like that. I was sort of bound by just I can't walk anymore, and so I would kind of make do with whatever was there, wherever I happened to end up, and it was a lot of private homes. It was a lot of people. It was a lot of tenting. It was it was churches. It was a whole laundry list of beautiful and unusual places.
Did you run into danger?
Did I run into danger? Every day I was inches away, from cars that were speeding by, and so danger felt pretty close. And there were dangers with sometimes it seemed there were dangers with some of the people I was approaching and meeting. What I came to believe about that is the dangers were mostly imagined. And I had a lot to do with how an interaction unfolded. So for example, two little stories come to mind. One is in South Carolina, and I'm walking, it's like kind of a gray, rainy day, and I'm walking through this sort of industrial district, and there's like no one around. And I see this guy, this homeless-looking guy, sort of dressed in ratty clothes and long, gnarly hair, and there's a chain link fence and sort of like a factory complex that way, and all he's doing, this is no one around. God only knows how long he's been here in this position. He's holding his hands on this chain link fence, just like staring at what I don't know. And I've got my little backpack, and I've got an American flag and an Earth flag, and a walking to listen sign, and a cowboy hat for some reason. And I'm sort of like tiptoeing by, hoping he won't hear me. And he's doing it, and of course, when he hears me, it turns. And I'm like, oh, hey. And he goes, what are you doing? And I had practiced this with my mother, right? So I knew what to say. I'm Andrew, I'm walking to listen to people's stories across America. And I remember in this moment, a lot of times I would speak sort of with an intention to, like, a hope that we might continue the conversation. But the energy I was putting off on this one was kind of like, this is what I'm doing, and I'm like, I'm moving. You know what I mean? Like, I'm walking to listen, but not to you. The guy goes, you're walking across America, huh? I go, yeah. He goes, well, be careful out there. A lot of crazy people out there. So my perceptions started to shift, and I started to realize, number one, that we're all terrified of each other. Even the crazy people are warning me about the crazy people out there. So who's crazy? And just the power, the disarming power, the transformative power of that sincerity that I was talking about earlier. And I find myself remembering this story often, and getting to tell it often. It so changed me. This was in New Orleans, and people had warned me about the dangerous people, from day one. Are you carrying a gun on you? How many knives do you got? Don't trust anybody. Getting told this over and over again in so many ways, explicitly, to the point that I realized, like, I think we're better than we give ourselves credit for, number one. And number two, we are more than the worst thing we've ever done. Each one of us, you know. That's a line from Brad Stevenson. We're more than the worst thing we've ever done. So I began looking for that and listening for that in everybody I've met. So outside New Orleans, people had warned me about walking through this city. They said, they'll shoot you for the shirt off your back. You know? Like, okay. Let's find out. So I'm at a little bar right before the outskirts of the city. And my plan was to find somewhere to camp on the outskirts of town and then wake up really early the next day before any of the bad people were awake, because the bad people sleep in. You know? And walk really quickly to my friend's place near the French Quarter and get there by 10 in the morning, and I'd be fine, you know. And I'm eating a bowl of chili that this guy at the bar got me, and I'm telling him my plan for the next day, and he goes, okay, well, you know crackheads don't sleep, right? I had not considered this in my logistical calculus. So I'm nervous, in other words, and the sun is setting, and I hear there's a fire station. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll get to camp out there. I'm about a mile from the fire station. It's getting darker, and I hear this voice go, "Hey!" Just on the highway out there. I'm like, maybe he's not talking to me. And I hear him go, "Hey, you, Walker!" He's probably talking to me. I look, and he's this middle-aged white guy, a little on the heavier side, sort of like balding, wild, blondish hair, wearing like a tank top sort of thing, sleeveless t-shirt, and he's standing there up on his porch. I cross the road to him, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "Well, Andrew, walking to listen, listening to people's stories, maybe all the way across America. Started in Philadelphia and maybe going as far as California." "Philadelphia? So you're a damn Yankee." "Who the heck invited you down?" And he wasn't kidding, you know. And he also didn't say heck. And so in a moment like this, you ask about danger, you know. Okay, how much of this danger is absolutely true and real? How much of it is imagined? And how much of this moment can be shaped by my own energy, my own approach to this moment? How powerful am I? Is a question. How powerful is my sincerity? You know. So I tried to connect to that, like as if it were coming from behind me. You know, here's this guy throwing these vibes at me, and just rooting into my intention and saying, "No one invited me down here, you know, but I really am here to listen." And he goes, "Well, that's fine, but you're standing on neutral ground right now. And as soon as you come onto my lawn, that's my taxed land. That's my territory." All right, you know, listening, and you know, saying, "Okay, I'm not here to cause problems, and you know, goodbye." But leaving the door open, you know, like leaving the door open, not reciprocating, not dishing it back. And so I said, okay, you know, and left with the door open, you know. And I hear him go, hey, wait. And I turn around and go, yeah. And I, you know, no intent here, other than to just be present and respect, you know. I go, yeah. He goes, you like beer? I go, yeah. He goes, you want one? I go, okay, all right. So I walk up to his porch, and the way I imagine it is he had probably spent most of his life with a contracted heart, you know, an armored heart. And he let his guard down for a second and reached out, which was a vulnerable thing to do, you know. So he opened up And after spending a lifetime closed, when you open up, that thing's not just going to stay open. You know? So you want to have a beer? And then I start coming, and he's like, oh God, what have I done? That's my wondering about how it goes, because I came up to his porch, and he's like, whoa. He was back to that guy again. He goes, you got to leave your backpack out here, because you got a gun in there or something. I don't want you pulling no gun on me. You know? All right. Yeah. Right? He goes, you got an ID on you? I go, yeah. He's like, let me see your ID. And as if I was trying to get into some nightclub or something, I give the guy my ID. He's looking at it and he goes, yeah. You know, I used to work at a liquor store once, and this is like fake. So he's playing power games, you know. I'm like, it's not a fake, man. He's like, I think it is. I go, no, it's not. I go to reach for it. He goes, you know. So I'm just like, trying to stay grounded in that wavelength of love, you know. Eventually he gets back to me, and we walk into his house, and things started to thaw at that point, because the vulnerability was shared, you know. It wasn't just me exposed far from home on the highway. Now, he had invited a stranger into his home. So we were both in it together. And there were stray papers all over the place and cat toys lying around. And I started to learn a little bit more about this crazy man shouting at me from the side of the road, you know. We sit down at the table. He brings out some beers. He goes, I got these dark beers. You're going to love them. You're going to love them. Just seeing this guy is sweet all of a sudden, you know. And he started that image I shared of, like, you know, I was a listening space. And if you haven't, if there hasn't been that space for you to make your offerings, to pour your gifts into that space, to sing your songs, if you haven't encountered someone who knows how to listen trustworthily, it starts to build up. You know what I mean? There's a backlog of offering and of processing that just kind of swells. And finding himself in the presence of someone who cared enough to listen, it was as if he had been waiting his whole life to share some of these stories and to just start singing his beautiful song. And much of it was actually really hard to listen to, because it was filled with violence and racism and judgment. And I was triggered, you know, like, how do I remain in connection with this man who I find myself disagreeing with and almost repulsed by, you know, telling me stories of he's beating up people and his hatred for black people, you know. It's like, how do I be with this guy? And then he's telling some story, and he throws in this detail, just a brief little detail. He goes, yeah, you know, I was really pissed off that day because I had to bury my son, you know. And then he rushed on as if he hadn't even said it. But he opened his heart, and I got a glimpse of something that I could never unsee, you know. And it didn't justify any of his hatred or violence, but it made it a little less possible for me to reciprocate in kind with judgment, hatred, the violence of, you know, separation, seeing him as different or other, you know, like getting let into his wound, into his broken heart. I couldn't help but be a little less interested in hating this man, you know. Which is where I think listening is the essential medicine for what we're struggling through as a society and as a society of individuals, you know. If I've made of myself a trustworthy presence such that you feel ready to share the breadth and depth of your story with me, then and only then will I be able to understand you. And if I understand you, hate, something like hatred, it just becomes like not only illogical, but it's just it's not going to happen. If I've really been there with you, if you've let me in. But who's going to let me in if I haven't done the work of becoming trustworthy? And so after a year of practicing this work of trustworthy listening and of learning how to show up for people in this way and show up for myself in this way, I can't help but wonder, like what would our world look like? What would our country look like? Or if you start with what would my life look like? What would our family look like? If each of us was sort of struggling in this beautiful way to somehow become trustworthy and to listen in that way to each other, to give each other that gift. To me, it's kind of like trying to imagine a color that doesn't exist. Like, what even is that? I can't quite see it. But I know it's possible, I know that world is possible. And it's why I'm here today with you. Yes?
Talk about your mom.
My mama? Great. What do you want to know about her?
I just love this. I love the way you say I started with one at my mom's house. I don't have my mom's house. That grabbed me right there. I was like, yeah, all right, I gotta learn about this.
Cool. Yeah, my mom, Therese Dornlund, is her name. The book is dedicated to her.
What did she think of you doing this?
Yeah.
And is she a good listener?
Yeah. What did she think of me doing this? Is she a good listener? It's interesting to hear her talk about how she parented me growing up. The way she saw it, the way she sees it is, a child is born into their body and into their life with a purpose, with a destiny that no one else knows, And so she saw her primary role as listener, I think, and teacher and caretaker and lots of things. But she describes sort of observing me, listening to me, but also my soul, the deeper undercurrent and movement that I seemed to be expressing as a child. And so, was she surprised that I did this? She wasn't surprised. She was maybe surprised by the form that so she was tuned into the impulse that I had to journey in this way, or to explore and question and wonder in this way. She didn't know what form it would take. I don't think she imagined it would take the form of a walk across America. So when it did, I think there was some catching up to do, some grieving. She talks about how the experience for her was an experience in accepting that I could die. Accepting that. And that if she didn't accept my death, then this dynamic of how it wouldn't have been possible for her to live in peace, because she would have been resisting the reality. Because that was the reality. I could die. And it always had been the reality. So the walk was sort of an opportunity for her to begin to love me in my fullness, which includes my mortality. And to sort of press pause on that motherly instinct to do anything and everything to preserve the life of her child, even if it means locking him in his bedroom for the rest of his life. Or following him behind as he walks across America in her van, honking at people, don't talk to him! Andrew, drink water! Really letting me go, letting me die. I don't have children of my own, but so I can't fully appreciate or imagine what kind of a journey she was on while I was walking. But it had to do with accepting all of me, which includes my death. Yeah, very intense. She's a very She's a profound woman, a very strong, remarkable woman. She talked about how on the road, while I was walking, she sort of felt split into two different mothers. She said there was the divine mother that knew everything was in order, everything taken care of, no matter what, no matter where he ends up tonight, no matter whether he makes it to the ocean or not, no matter whether he dies or not, no matter what, the divine mother knows it's all good, it's all taken care of. But then there was the animal mother. She described the animal mother. And she said, yeah, I had to lock the animal mother up in the bathroom, you know, or else, yeah, I would have been following you. I would have been locking you up and all that stuff. Can't say enough about her. I mean, yeah, I remember the last day. It was the last day of my walk. I had walked through the Navajo Nation, which is where I wanted to speak a little bit more about this experience of being so deeply seen and listened to by the people I met. And the people of Navajo Nation showed up to me and celebrated me in a way I had never quite experienced before. Give you a little example. The Navajo radio station had got it out on the airwaves that this white boy was walking through the reservation, you know. And if you see him, at this point I was pushing a baby stroller full of my gear, so I stood out if I hadn't already, pushing a baby stroller through the desert, you know. And they said, if you see him, stop and say hey. And so word was out, you know. And I showed up at this gas station in the middle of the reservation in Arizona. And this Navajo grandma saw me and came over to me with her granddaughter and said, and her granddaughter translated, are you the young man she heard about on the radio? I said, I think so. And she tells her grandma, and her grandma says something back. And the granddaughter says, Grandma wants to cook for you. Okay. We discovered that Grandma lived about a 15-minute drive from where we were, 20-minute drive, which is about a 2-day walk for me. And so we said, okay, 2 days from now, I'm going to get to this intersection in this desert highway, middle of nowhere. She lived way off the highway and said she would meet me there so I didn't have to walk out of my way. At noon, 2 days from now. Okay, 2 days from now rolls by, and I'm running late. And it's maybe 3 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock. I'm starting to feel bad. I'm like, oh God, I'm making them wait. Maybe they've left. Maybe they never showed up to begin with, you know. I'm coming down this winding desert road into this vast valley, and it's all gold and sand and dun-colored, you know, rock and blue sky coming down. And I think I'm approaching where we had said we'd meet. But I'm not seeing anything. Getting closer. I start to see some little wink, glinting lights, you know? I'm like, what is that? And I see some white blob, big white blob. I'm getting closer and pushing my baby stroller, you know? And I see about maybe a dozen cars parked on the side of the highway in the middle of the desert, middle of nowhere, you know. Why are all these cars over there? And then I get closer and I see that the white blob is a big party tent. And, okay, get closer and there's a whole crowd of people, Navajo people there, there's a whole neighborhood, you know. And there's grandma and her granddaughter, and I'm like, you know, and a few women were there, and one of them says, are you Andrew? I go, yeah. And she goes, we've been waiting for you. Which, what I think she meant was, you're late. You're waiting, dude. But there is that other meaning to it, you know, of intimations of you belong here with us in this moment. You know, we've been waiting for you. We're here for you. We cooked for you. And just this feeling we got your back, you know, and what do you do with that? You know, what do you do when a group of strangers set aside most of their day to cook for you and to celebrate you, you know? And not only that, but these are people whose ancestors were deceived and slaughtered and extorted, earned, all the horrible things, you know, by my ancestors. You know what I mean? By people who look like me. And here we are in this moment in history, and they are showing up to me in this way, in my moment of need. What do you do with that? You know? Yeah. It's a lot to take in. You know, it's a lot to receive. But there's an imperative to receive the gift, because to deny the gift is to disrespect them. You know? And so in order to receive the gift, I have to know myself as worthy of that gift. And then the question is, what do I not do with that gift? And the way I think about it is, having received that kind of attention, having received that kind of love, that kind of inclusion, I now know what it's like. I now know it's possible to relate to people in that way, because I've seen it with my own eyes, you know. And it's now my obligation to relate to people in that way, and to give in that way. I can't say that I've yet thrown a celebratory feast for someone I don't know. I haven't reached that level yet, you know. But I'm working on it, you know. I think it is just a daily practice. And I think there's so many beautiful little ways to do it, you know. And I think listening is one. So, the generosity and the hospitality and the sort of bewildering kindness of the Navajo people, which wasn't outstanding in that, or exceptional, in that I did experience strains of that with all different kinds of people across America. It was just particularly potent on the Navajo reservation. It didn't end there. So about 2 weeks before the end of my walk, 2 weeks away from the ocean, the end, I'm contacted by Chris and James Paisano, who were the first Navajo men I met on the reservation. They'd taken me into their home, a father and a son. And they said, we want to be there for you at the end, at the ocean. We want to come out and we want to help you finish the walk and do a ceremony for you. Can we do that for you? You know? It's like, I still feel it here, you know. I still feel what they gave me. It's so close to my heart. And it comes out sometimes, you know, in tears of just, love and gratitude. And so I said, yeah, of course. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what the ceremony would be. But I said yes. And so the last day of my walk, I had sent it out on my travel blog that I'd be finishing at this beach on this day at this time. And if you can make it, come to the fiesta. You know, we'll be there. And I remember rolling into Half Moon Bay, the little town where I was going to finish, with my stroller, you know. I could kind of see the ocean. And right before town, there was this police car. And I begin to pass the police car, and the two officers get out. And they said, yeah, we got a call about a guy pushing his baby on the highway coming into town, clogging up traffic, and we're pretty sure it's you. And I go, it's not a baby, it's a backpack. I show them the backpack, and I go, I'm literally maybe 5 minutes from having walked across America. Like, I'm almost there. And they go, are you serious? Yes. And they confer with each other for a few seconds. And they go, well, go on, dude, we're not going to stop you now. I was like, come for the pop. Yeah. Just kept walking. And coming into the town of Half Moon Bay, seeing people milling about like in any old town. And then suddenly I see Kathy Cernis, one of my landscaping clients from when I was in high school. She had flown out to be there for that day. And then I see Herb and Marion Furman, who put me up in Alabama on this walk. They had flown out to be there that day. Willie Gray, who put me up in Alabama, he had flown out. And suddenly I'm rolling with a bit of an entourage. And then there's my dad. My dad and my stepmom. And I'm rolling with them, you know. We get to the beach, and this is where Chris and his brother Michael, the two Navajo brothers, meet me. And Michael starts drumming on a hand drum and singing a chant in Navajo. And Chris is leading the way and sprinkling a path of cornmeal for us to bless our footsteps. And at this point, I'm just totally, I'm floating in a surreal other world, and it's this world, you know, I'm just completely present. You know, I'm crying, you know. I've made it. It sort of felt like the end of my life, you know, and so many people were here to be with me, to see me off into this ocean. And there's a group of people that we were sort of walking toward, and one of them breaks off and gives this animal-like shout. And she's running toward me, and it's my mom. And she comes to me and embraces me, and just says, my son, my son, my son, over and over again. And I could feel some of what she'd been carrying all this time. It was over now. She could sleep. And they took me into the center of the circle, and I kept on crying like a man. And suddenly, one of my friends rushed out and hugged me, and I just started working my way around this circle of like 50 people, just hugging each person. And there were some people who just happened to be there at the beach that day, you know? And they're like, what's going on? They're like, dude's finishing a walk across America. And they're like, what, really? Can I hang out? Yes! Join the circle. So I would get to somebody who I didn't know, and I would just, thank you for being here. It doesn't matter that I don't know you. What does that even mean? I don't know you. You know, I see you. Here we are. They led me down to the water where James, Michael, and Chris's father, his Navajo elder, was waiting at the water's edge. And he instructed everyone to take a little pinch of cornmeal and to put it into my hands. And he told me to remember that I wasn't just walking for myself, you know, that this was not just for me. It's for us. all of us. You know? And so he said, each of you, take a little bit of formula, sprinkle it into this young man's hands. He's about to go into the water and take it all in there with him. So your prayers, your hurts, your joys, your hopes, your heart, whatever you got, like, pour it in there so he can take that for you, you know? And suddenly I had a big pile of cornmeal in my hands, a healthy pile. And he said, James said, when you walk through our land, our nation, I called you Boy Who Walks. He had a Navajo name for it. He said, but you have a new name now. He said, Hastin Miha Nagahi, man who walks for us. Man who walks for us. Man who walks for us. And that's who walked into the water. And that's who I strive to be every day. You know, I think of it not so much as like a done deal, as it is a marching orders. It's like, okay, this is what you have to become every day. You know, and it's us. It's not some of us. It's not man who walks for like the ones he likes. Man who walks for the people, for the ones he agrees with. No, it's all of us. All of us. So it's a question of living. You know, what does it mean to be that? And I also think of it as a name to be given to anyone who's willing to take that name with me. You know, man who walks for us, woman who walks for us, one who walks for us. Who would we be? You know, really, who would we be if we were thinking about that name in each step? And we are, you know, in our own ways, and I thank you for the ways that you have been living that name. You know, in the way that you have mothered and fathered and grandmothered and grandfathered. Yeah, the way that you take care of your garden, the way that you take care of your dying parents, you know. Just the way that you're showing up to life, into your life. So I honor you and thank you for the ways that you're doing this already. And this is me saying I'm with you in that. Let's keep doing it. You know? Let's do it more. Yes.
So what has that meant for you? So you wrote a book, and now you talk to people a lot. And has that kind of imperative transformed the rest of your work that you do now? Like, what has that turned into?
Yeah. To me, I think the question is, how has that transformed my work and my life, and what has that turned into? I think the best answer I can say for that is it's a question of living. Rilke, Austrian poet, has this beautiful line about don't worry about the answers, just live the questions. You know, it's an intention I try to, like a mindfulness practice. It's an intention I try to carry with me in every moment, and that I think is the invitation of the apprenticeship to trustworthy listening. Is that there's never a moment where you're not being asked to listen to something or someone or something in here, you know. And so that to me is what my name is. You know, it's an ever-present invitation. Sometimes it looks, there's a formal way, there's a more recognizable formal way that I express that in a moment like this, you know, where it's a little, you can see that I'm offering something, you know. But every moment, you know, I'm at least trying to remember to check in with myself to see if I'm living that name. Not in some sort of paranoid, vigilant, you know, am I doing it right now? I mean, that sometimes that. But yeah, just checking in, like checking in with the breath. And just one last thing on that, like to really, note that like showing up to somebody in an unrecognized and seemingly ordinary moment of listening I think is just as important as any kind of, talk that can be given, or book that might be published, or a movie that might be made. Just those simple, those seemingly simple but deeply important moments of just presence here with somebody, I think is what is the foundation of unification.
Is it going to be a movie?
Oh, I don't know. Just in general, Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
What, at the end of this, obviously you started out with why you went on it. So at the end of the journey, at the end of the book, and even continuing with seminars like this that you did, two things. What is the thing that surprised you most about people in your talks? As best as you can generalize about all people, but the thing that constantly came up that surprised you most, and what preconceived notion before you went out was really maybe toppled? Like you thought growing up, this is what people are like, and then you found out that wasn't real at all.
Yeah. The notion that there is such a thing as bad people is a notion that I now believe to be a lie. Now, are there people who are causing tremendous amounts of pain and anguish in the world? Absolutely. Are there people who are deluded and seeing and not seeing clearly in ways that are affecting human lives and animal lives and the natural world in disastrous ways? Absolutely. Are those people bad people? I guess for me, I don't think of it in terms of good and bad anymore, so much as what the walk taught me, and what getting to connect with so many different kinds of people taught me, is that I think connection between my heart and your heart, whoever the you happens to be, is possible. I think connection is possible between any and every individual that is alive. The question is, what's it going to take for that latent connection to realize itself and manifest? And sometimes it's not going to realize itself. Sometimes it will remain latent and it will remain unexpressed. But the possibility and the potential is still there. And so I approach what we tend to call bad people. For me, I just listen deeper. It's a question of why are they behaving in the ways that they're behaving? What haven't they yet experienced or learned that would change their behavior? That would render this misbehavior just something that they wouldn't consider doing. And what have they lived? What have they experienced such that they're living and expressing in this way? I think I see people and try to see people through that lens, instead of this lens of who's good and who's bad, who's on my side and who's on the other side. I'm less interested in that. I don't think that gets us anywhere. And I was blessed and privileged to have had the opportunity to experience boots on the ground, face to face, that it's not just a principle that I'm speaking about here. It's a lived reality. I got to connect with that guy in New Orleans. I got to live that experience with someone who seemed so demonic at first glance. And I had enough of those lived evidence moments to help me to sort of bolster my faith in the demons among us, and to realize that the demons are the ones who are asking for love most of all. I've got a teacher, mentor named Daryl Slim. He's a Navajo medicine man, and he's talked about how when people come up to him with aggression or some kind of insult, or he triggers them in some way and then they attack him in some way, he says, "That's a funny way of asking for help." That's all that is. And it's causing damage in the process, but he sees through to the heart the pain that behavior is coming from. So that's my answer to the question of what idea is no longer tenable for me, and that's one. Thanks for the question. Maybe one or two more questions. Yes.
Do you still keep in touch with a lot of people that you encountered along the way?
I do, yeah. I mean, I met nearly 1,000 people, and had some kind of meaningful moment. I kept a list of everybody. Josh stopped on the side of the road in Texas and said hello. Like all of those people. So I don't keep it up to nearly the number of people I actually met, but there's a handful of people I do keep in touch with and keep it alive. And really the way I see it is like what I experienced with those people, it's almost like there's a spirit there that the two of us got to experience together. And that spirit is everywhere. Like I can carry that with me and I can experience it with you, and with anybody I meet. That's what I mean by this latent potential for us to connect. You can conceptualize it as a spirit. So although I may not keep in touch with most of the people with whom I experienced that spirit is what I live for, So, yes.
I don't have a question, just a comment. Is that you're a tremendously gifted storyteller, and I think I just was there on your journey with you today. And I just want to say thanks for inspiring me what you've been listening.
Thank you. Maybe I'll just make a few simple announcements before one last question, perhaps, and then just one last gratitude. But I'll be here with the books. If you'd like to buy a book, I'd be happy to sign it and bless it up for you. My website is livingtolisten.com. If you want to see more of my writing and works, and if you'd like to have me speak, this is something I enjoy doing. And I also teach trustworthy listening. I'm at the beginning of learning how to teach trustworthy listening. I'm like, why wasn't this a class at school? What the hell? And walk across America. What? So yeah, happy to come and be with your young people. I guess I'll save my gratitudes for post last question.
I was just wondering, are you writing more?
I am writing more. Yeah, I've got some works in progress, and check out my website. I post some writings on Instagram and on my blog. Yeah. Okay, last one.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
First word that came to mind was myself. Myself. I want to be myself. And I guess in order to be that, my hope is that I never decide that I know the answer to that question. I hope I can always keep a little room for being surprised by what else I might be. Just be true and open and sharing with who it is that I am. Thank you for that question. Yeah, and I just want to say thank you again. Thank you for gifting me with your presence. Thank you for gifting each other with your presence. And I'll use the word pray. I pray that we can enjoy that spirit together. That spirit that is available to us and is possible for us and with us. in this very auditorium. So maybe before you leave, see if you can have a walking to listen moment with somebody. Ask a question. And maybe the question can be, what are you taking away from the talk? What did you feel? What did you experience? What was it like? Just to get to look into your eyes, to get to look into somebody's eyes is such an honor. To get to be together, get to be with this sweet child like that, it's just a gift. I think that's a perfect note to finish. So thank you.
Thank you.